Hey everybody, welcome to the JD Show. I'm your host, JD. I'm here with my friend Keelan tonight. Keelan, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, I'm Keelan. I'm 19 years old. I live in Los Angeles and I work in the advertising industry as well as modeling as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for coming on. As you already know, in the show, we like to talk about male-female dynamics and different topics when it comes to the modern dating space and the different sociological norms that we see within our society. So my first question for you, Keelan, well, actually, why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself? First off, are you single or are you dating?
I'm pretty single. Yeah.
Pretty single?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
single.
And how's your relationship experience been so far? Have you had a lot of relationships?
No, I definitely have had fewer relationships for sure. Yeah, definitely not too many. Yeah.
So, Keelan, why don't you tell me a little bit about your overall dating experiences so far? And maybe you could point out some of the things that you've really liked within your past relationships or things that you've not liked in your past relationships.
I definitely think in my experience, I feel like specifically not just my experience, but also like kind of the entire generation to a certain extent, there has been a shift in the way men and women approach each other, as well as like kind of how we go about. I don't want to say courting, but courting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there has been a change, and like I think in my dating experience and such, it definitely has shown, as well as many of my friends, what traditionally was more common, like men going for women and kind of providing and all that stuff. I definitely think there is a shift in that, as kind of women have come into their power, which is great to a certain extent. Definitely, I believe that it is good to have that equal sense by all means, but I think the way that it's kind of shown up in a lot of dating experiences is rather than having.
So it sounds like you're talking a little bit more about traditional male-female roles. So it sounds like maybe in some of your past relationship experience, you haven't necessarily had the qualities of traditional masculinity within that partner. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
I'd say so to a certain extent. I mean, my dance coach once said this once. I need a guy that puts me in my place. Nobody can put me in my place. I haven't met anybody that's
Mhm.
capable.
Okay, so it sounds like you lacked a guy who could actually be in charge in your relationship.
Not in the right way. I feel like their definition of being in charge was kind of taking away from my feminine qualities and allowing them to like the masculine energy, like traditionally, is in charge. It was once said to me that the men are the head, but the women are the neck.
Mhm.
So a man might think that he's in charge. He might think that he's in control, and he should be, because he should be kind of empowered in that sense. And men need to feel confident. Men need to feel good about themselves. They need to feel in charge because
Right.
that's
They
what
need to
they
be
crave.
supported by
Yes,
their woman. So
definitely.
in my experience, what I've seen to work out in the best relationships, like man was in charge, he led the pack of the household,
Yeah.
and the woman was there to support whatever it was that he did. So the woman's responsibilities were to essentially stroke his ego a little bit.
Yeah.
It sounds superficial, but it is extremely accurate that men thrive in their relationships a hell of a lot more if their woman is stroking their ego, making them feel masculine,
Certainly.
giving them their physical needs.
Definitely. I think so. Like, because kind of like what I was saying with woman being the neck, the neck needs to make the head feel like it's in charge, because the head is, the brain, whatever. But the neck is moving. The neck is saying, oh, oh, I love your idea, but look at that direction, or oh, you're right, but let's think about this perspective. That's kind of what the neck does to the head. And I think that that is kind of an accurate description between males and females, because men feel like they're in charge, and they should be to a certain extent. They need to feel that they can be confident and loved and like respected in that sense. But women also need to kind of feel like they are valued and intelligent and supported and loved and also respected. I think that,
Of course, yeah. There's yin and yang in every aspect of life, especially a relationship. And in order for a couple to really thrive in a relationship, like she needs to be the yin, he needs to be the yang, and their energies kind of coincide with each other.
yes.
So in order for him to be able to be in his masculine role, the woman needs to be able to be in her feminine role.
Yes, and I think definitely adding to that, like when a woman feels safe and cared for and respected and intelligent and listened to, that's when she can feel feminine and that's when she can like let her guard down. I think when women feel threatened and scared and judged and questioned and put down, that's when they become kind of that more so traditional aggressive behavior, which I definitely have experienced in my past by all means. Not feeling like you can let your guard down, not feeling like you can let somebody else be in charge, because if they're in charge, then that's questioning my authority, and God forbid some, you know what I mean? But that's not a healthy way to think of relationships. And in my past, certainly, I definitely feel like relationships have been a competition.
Would you say that you've not been able to thrive in your feminine energy in your past relationships?
Yeah, definitely. I feel
And what were some of those factors that made you feel that way? Like some of the behaviors that your past partners displayed that made you feel like you couldn't like thrive in that feminine energy.
I feel like there's a mixture between making each other feel listened to and in control to a certain extent, like kind of like we were mentioning before, making a man feel like he's in charge and control. You know, you should give that to somebody because it makes them feel good. And when you motivate people, when you make them feel better about themselves, they act better. They proceed in their life better. And I think to give that to somebody else, yet also receiving it yourself, like, oh, like even though I think a lot of women, including myself, have a problem with femininity because it is usually associated with weakness. It's associated with dumb blonde stupidity. And I think that makes me kind of sometimes resent that femininity in myself, even, which I no longer want to do anymore. And I think finding somebody that makes you feel like femininity is strength rather than weakness, and like you can be listened to and respected, even though you have that like vulnerability and emotions to you. I think a lot of women resent that there's an emotional aspect to womanhood. There's a caring, there's a compassion there that traditionally, or I guess stereotypically, men don't kind of feel. And I think it kind of gets sad when you feel like you care and there's emotions there and like you can't have them be like understood to a certain extent. So you start resenting yourself. You start saying like, oh, I'm too emotional, or I'm I'm acting weak. And I feel like that weakness is what brings women into having them kind of act in a way that is a wounded feminine, like a wounded definition of femininity. And a wounded feminine is manipulative, definitely victimy, insecure, a lot of things, a lot of kind of like the catty definitions of womanhood, putting other women down, putting their men down. I think that is kind of what wounded womanhood is. But then if you find a man that empowers you enough to be vulnerable, enough to let go of control, that's what it is. If you find somebody that empowers you enough to allow you to let go of control, that's the difference. Because it's not always easy to feel like you're in a circumstance where you can let go of control. It's not always like, oh, well, if I let go of control, like, what if I'm judged? What if I'm too emotional? What if they start seeing my vulnerabilities? What if he starts questioning my intellect? Blah, 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 blah. And I think when you meet somebody that respects you and your intellect, you can kind of let go of that I need to be in control. And that's when you can make men feel like they're the head and you can be the neck, and you can let somebody else be in charge, because it's not a competition. It doesn't matter if you're in control. You can just let somebody else lead and allow you to follow. Now, not blindly follow by any means, but you can let go of that aggressive behavior and allow somebody else to kind of take the lead. And I think when things get difficult, when masculinity and femininity clash, is when women take away a man's power and men take away women's power. But here's the thing, we can obviously display each other's qualities, but at the same time, there is a difference sometimes. And in those relationships where there is like a definite, masculine and a definite feminine in those certain relationships, if you kind of questions each other's side, that's when things become difficult.
Right. So it does take trust from both ends. Like a woman has to be able to trust her man to be able to play all of those roles within the masculine traits. But then that's where it comes back to the male side, being able to be the type of man who can portray those traditionally masculine roles. Like if he is able to take care of the household, provide protection, provide financial stability, be able to emotionally support his woman, if a man is able to do all of those things, which in today's society we typically don't see very much, it's something that's slowly fading away.
Definitely.
And for some reason, in the past decade, it's been slowly becoming more of an issue where traditional masculinity has been frowned upon, where I think that's where we started to see almost a collapse within Western society where marriages are no longer working out for the most part. Most relationships aren't lasting very long. And a lot of it is due to men not being able to hold up their end of the bargain. If a man is able to be able to capture all of those roles that are necessary in the masculine energy, a woman is going to be able to be relaxed and comfortable and take a step back, not have to step up to the plate, not have to worry about finances, not having to worry about keeping the house in order. And she can focus more on the amazing feminine energy that she brings within the relationship.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think there is a respect. I think that's something that is lacking in a lot of relationships. And it's by all means, I mean, power struggles are hard, and I'm not saying it's easy to get through. But at the same time, if you can allow a guy to feel powerful and listened to and cared for and be compassionate and not manipulative, if you can just allow them to feel intelligent, then that emboldens them to kind of take on more traditional roles. But at the same time, if a man can also make a woman feel intelligent, listened to, and capable at the same time as relaxed, because there is a difference. I feel like there's a fine line between proving yourself and being confident in yourself. And I mean, I struggle with it to this day. By all means, like I definitely think there is a level of competition that needs to kind of relax, but that's how you know the relationship is flourishing. If you can support your man, and if your man can support you, if you make each other feel intelligent, that's when women can feel like they can relax. They don't have to compete, or at least for myself, don't have to compete, don't have to prove myself all the time. Like I can just be, the more beautiful sides of femininity, and men can just be the more beautiful sides of masculinity. That works. Yet also allowing each other to branch outside of just those kind of, I don't want to say restrictions, but women need to feel intelligent, women need to feel capable. That's not a question. That's necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think a man can do? Like, what are some actions or displays of behavior that a man can do to help a woman essentially be able to relax in her feminine energy?
I think it's important to talk about what you want to do in life. Like, obviously, life is not that easy, and you have to do what you can to make it work. And especially in this economy, it's not that simple to have one income make a house work, especially if there's children, especially if there's multiple children. It's not, all roses and sunshine, because, usually both parents have to go to work. And I think that's also great, because I would also consider myself more so a career-based woman. I don't have any children. I'm not planning on having children for a very, very long time.
Right. Yeah, the financial status of where we live is extremely important for relationships, because like you said, most households, both the men and the women need to work in order to make ends meet. Like just buying regular groceries these days is insane.
Yeah.
I only shop at like Sprouts and Whole Foods, getting the premium.
Okay.
Like no,
I don't.
So not a flex. No. But I have the financial means to be able to afford those high quality foods. And that's a whole another rabbit hole we could go when it comes
Right.
to what we consume and the products that we buy.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, in order for people just to afford basic groceries, having both the man and the woman in the relationship work definitely puts a strain on, the woman being able to be comfortable in her feminine energy. And then it also puts a strain on the man being able to strive in his masculine energy,
Yeah.
because a man can work extremely hard in his field. Like making $100,000 these days
enough.
is not
It's not enough.
anything.
Yeah, no.
When I was growing up in high school, I thought to myself, if I could make $100,000,
Chilling.
I would make. I
Right.
made it at that point, chilling,
Yeah.
perfect life, own the house, drive, the car that you want. Maybe it's not a Lamborghini, but very nice, like SUV,
Yeah.
Cadillac
got a
Escalade.
Toyota.
Right. But now, like, yeah, $100,000. No, you need to have two people in the house almost making $100,000 to really live that good life. So a man isn't able to feel like he can fully provide for his family in today's climate. So he has to work way harder than a man did even just 10 years ago to be able to provide for his woman and his family. And that is masculine energy being taken away from him. And then now the woman is having to step up to the plate and fulfill those traditionally masculine roles, which is going to limit her ability to feel comfortable in her feminine energy. And she's going to have to start displaying more masculine energy.
Yeah. I definitely agree to a certain extent, yet in the society, that's kind of what's needs to happen right now. But at the same time, I do think that women also want to kind of feel, there is this sense of wanting to be out in the world, wanting to be able to provide for your family. I mean, at the end of the day, a woman could lift a fucking car off her kid if she needed to because the kid was in trouble. And I do think that there is a sense of wanting to provide, wanting to keep your children safe, wanting to, also work in the workforce. I mean, by all means, including myself, I love I love being involved in the society, being in the know of what's happening. I don't think I'd be happy just being in the house, being a housewife, and then just kind of having that be my entire life. And here's, I think, the difficulty to a certain extent. There is a sense of femininity and masculinity, yet at the same time, there needs to be allowing for each other to also be a human outside of that box of femininity and masculinity. And sometimes that means when women feel threatened, they need to step up into their masculinity. They need to feel like, okay, I can save the family. I can provide. I can do what I need to do because I am strong enough. And then men also need to be able to feel like, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm supposed to be strong all the time. Yeah, boys don't cry and whatever. But like at the same time, they are humans, and there needs to be a sense of like, I can let go. I don't have to prove myself to my woman, to my family constantly. I can also just exist. And there does need to be room for that. Yet at the same time, if there's too much room for that, if there's too much of that, consistently too much of that, it can also allow room for error in a sense of where you start questioning yourself. For those that want to be in a traditional man-woman relationship, I do think that there needs to be room for you to be a human and, exist outside of those boxes. Yet if there is too much of that, then that's what leads to insecurity. That's what leads to women being like, oh gosh, like maybe all I do is not feel feminine. I never feel good about myself. And you sit there and you question, why do I hate myself? Why do I never feel good enough? And then you realize like, oh, I kind of am in my masculine energy all the time. And masculine energy is infectious. I mean, it's you want it because it's
empowering.
It feels incredible. I mean, I would consider myself someone who has definitely been more masculine in my life. And the feeling of walking around with your shoulders back, stepping into that masculine energy, stepping into your strength, stepping into your, like, I could take on anybody that comes into my way. It's empowering and it feels incredible. But at the same time, if there's too much of it, I realize like, gosh, like all I do is live in my masculine energy and I don't feel very good about myself and I don't know why. And then I remember it's because I'm completely disgracing my feminine energy. And I'm not saying that that means being not strong, because females are strong in their own way, by all means. But I think more so it's looking at feminine energy and being like, ugh, like I don't want to deal with that weak feeling. I don't want to deal with having that box of femininity around me and not being able to get anything done. I don't want to deal with being looked at as catty and blah, 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 blah. But I think femininity can be looked at as incorrectly. I think a lot of feminists even look at feminine energy as a problem. And I think that is a problem. Like, including myself, I've definitely looked at feminine energy and I've been like, I don't want that right now. I really cannot deal with that right now. But then it's like, I ask myself, well, what is feminine and why is it so bad? Why do I need to act like a man to feel good about myself? I think that that's a big kind of trend in our society right now. If a woman does not act like a man, she is not good enough. And men, because of that, now we have all women stepping into their masculine energy. And don't get me wrong, I love that. But stepping into our masculine energy, then men are sitting there and like, wow, like, God, feminine energy is kind of nice. Like, wow, like being doted on, you know, like, yeah, my woman goes to work and she takes care of the kids. And all I do is go to work. Like, this is kind of nice. I pay child support and I like live alone, and like, wow, like I don't really have to like provide for my woman anymore. Like, my woman's offering to pick me up. My woman's offering to split the bill. Like, this is so nice. My woman, you know, cares about me, yet she also like, I think that there is, I mean, you could probably say to like to a certain extent, there is kind of like something enchanting about stepping into your feminine energy as a man, especially after having a hard life, kind of working corporate constantly, having to prove yourself in front of all your guy friends, having to have this strong facade, and then yet coming home to your woman and allowing yourself to be like, oh, this is so nice. But if you get stuck in that, then all of a sudden men are like losing themselves. Because
Right. So here's the thing: when it comes to most men, at least in our society, men typically have hard lives. The men who have very easygoing, cush lives, they tend to be the more feminine. You know, I'm not going to say the P word, but wusses, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, most masculine men have a very difficult life. Our life is filled with stress, pressure of society. We go by the honor system. So if we fail at something in life, that's hurting our honor, which is incredibly painful for us. So we're under a tremendous amount of pressure